The mud brick under your bare foot just gives way. 90 feet above the city of Ur, and somewhere below, a priest is already asking whose fault this is going to be. Dust rises where the brick used to be solid. Your knee finds a ledge you didn't know was there, and in the half second before you know if you're going to live, you already know one thing for certain. This is not the first time this wall has failed, and it will not be the last. The wind pulls at you from the open air, and below you the city keeps its own schedule, indifferent to whether you hold on. You hold on because holding on is the only skill you have left. The fall doesn't kill you. That part comes later. Being given to a temple sounds almost gentle. Quiet devotion, a spiritual life sheltered from the chaos of the streets. You picture a ziggurat the way you'd picture a pyramid, built once, finished, standing forever, untouched by time. Neither of those things is true, not for the structure, and not for you. It's roughly 2100 BCE, in the city of Ur, and you are 5 years old. The rope burns on your wrists haven't scarred over yet. You got them carrying offerings you were barely tall enough to lift, when your family hands you through the temple gate. This isn't unusual. Temple archives from this period record dependent workers in staggering numbers, children and women assigned to labor as a normal function of a major economic institution. The temple isn't just a place of worship. It is one of the largest employers in the city, and it runs on bodies like yours. A 5-year-old body, small enough to be handed over, small enough to be told what to do, small enough to be forgotten if it dies before it produces anything worth recording. You learn quickly that the gate only opens one way. Here's the part nobody explains to a 5-year-old walking through that gate. A ziggurat is not a finished monument. It's built from sun-dried mud brick, and sun-dried mud brick starts decaying the moment it's set into the wall. Rain softens it. Ground moisture wicks up into it. Heat cracks it. The building you're being given to isn't a wonder waiting to be admired. It's a wound that reopens on a schedule. You assume you were given to serve a god. You don't yet know you were given to serve a wall that can never stop being rebuilt. And what that wall eventually costs you is not something anyone in that doorway is going to tell you. They tell you the god's name, they don't tell you the walls. The surfaces of a ziggurat were whitewashed, so the temple would blaze white in the sun and be visible for miles across the flat delta. Someone has to apply that whitewash. That someone is you, and the substance doing the blazing is lime, caustic, drying, cracking your skin faster than sun alone ever could. Your hands stop looking like hands after enough seasons of this. The backs of them split. The nails wear down to nothing. The white dust finds your eyes, your throat, the raw places where your wrists were burned at 5. You drink water when it's given to you, and you eat what you're handed, and you sleep where you're told. And every morning the wall is waiting again, pale and thirsty, and so are you. There's no shift end. Temple bureaucracies tracked labor and rations the way any large institution tracks payroll. Quantities in, quantities out, names recorded on tablets. Except you can't hand in your resignation. You can't walk out the gate you walked in through at 5. The work simply continues, day folding into day, because the wall doesn't wait for you to rest. The sun does not wait for you to rest. The rain does not wait for you to rest. The wall is the one thing in Ur that is never told to wait, and you are the one who is never allowed to stop answering it. And the wall doesn't hold either. The bricks are bonded with bitumen and layers of reed matting, a real technique meant to buffer moisture, and it works for a while. But humidity breaks that bond constantly. A section you finished last season is already back on the repair list by the time the rains come again. Finished is a word the temple uses. It's not a word the wall recognizes. You learn the difference between the temple's words and the wall's words. The temple says, rest. The wall says, again. The temple says, your work is good. The wall says, it has already crumbled. You stop listening to the temple. You start listening to the wall, because the wall is honest, and the wall is always right. By the time you're 14, you've earned something that sounds like a promotion, and isn't. You're old enough now to be moved off ground-level plasterwork and up onto the terraces, higher, closer to the god's house at the top, further from the ground that would catch you. Historians still argue about how tall structures like the Great Ziggurat at Babylon, the Etemenanki, actually stood. The ancient Esagila tablet gives a height that some scholars think defies what mudbrick could structurally support, which means some of what you were sent up there to fix may have been failing not from neglect, but from design, built too ambitious for its own materials, from the very beginning. You've survived the terraces so far, but you haven't survived a flood season yet, and flood season is when the real damage happens. When the storms come, the mudbrick drinks the damp and swells and spalls, and the terraces turn treacherous in ways that have nothing to do with your skill, and everything to do with the height. Up there on the wet brick with the wind off the delta, you understand what your body is worth, exactly as much as the wall decides it is. Because a ziggurat was never just a place of prayer. It functioned as a center of political and economic power, a visible claim to the ruling class's legitimacy, standing over the city for anyone to see. A crack in that wall isn't a minor repair. It's a crisis for the authority of everyone whose power depends on that structure looking eternal. And that pressure doesn't land on the priests. It lands on the workers holding the trowels. Every crack becomes urgent. Every delay looks like defiance. There's no version of temple service where the answer is the wall can wait. The wall never waits, and neither does the temple's patience with whoever's hands are on it. By 20, the wall will make its claim. Here's what that costs. Just when you turn 20, it happens. This is the fall from the very beginning, the one that's been building since you were handed through that gate 15 years earlier. The terrace gives beneath you, 90 feet up, and the wall you've spent half your life patching finally makes its claim on you directly. There's no time to brace. The brick you were standing on was the same brick you patched yourself, a season ago, with your own hands, and it is the brick that drops you. You survive. Not everyone does, but you do. And surviving turns out to be a different problem than you expected, because injury on the ziggurat was never just physical. These were institutions run on strict obedience and recorded about output. Tablets tracking who produced what, who received how much grain, who kept pace and who didn't. There is little room in a system like that for a servant who can no longer climb the way you used to. Maybe you're expelled from the terrace work entirely. Maybe you're reassigned to grinding grain or hauling water. Lesser tasks for a body the temple has already quietly recalculated. Maybe instead you're pushed harder, ordered to prove your damaged hands and slower knees haven't made you worthless yet. Which of these happens to you isn't about what you intended or what you're willing to endure. It's about what your body can still produce. The temple was never measuring your loyalty. It was measuring your output. And now your output has changed. The tablets still list you. The question is what they list you as now. But surviving was never the same as being free of the wall. And the wall, unlike you, does not stop needing hands. It needs hands that can climb. It needs hands that can carry. It needs hands that can still be trusted with the lime and the bitumen and the reed matting. And if your hands no longer qualify, the wall will find other hands. It always finds other hands. The ziggurat you were handed to at 5 years old will still be standing, or being rebuilt, long after you're gone. Long after your name is gone, if it was ever written down at all.
Another child will walk through that same gate. Another set of hands will take up the whitewash and the bitumen and the reed matting, repairing the same cracks in the same wall. Because the wall was never something you built once and left behind. You were never rebuilding a monument. You were the monument's renewable material. One servant consumed, one servant replacing you indefinitely, for as long as the temple needed a white wall blazing over the city. You were the part of the ziggurat that had to be replaced in order for the ziggurat to look eternal. You were the cost of eternity, paid once, paid again, paid always. Don't let the cracks show. Don't let the silence break. Don't let your hands heal soft. Because in Ur, that's the price of keeping a god's house standing. This wasn't fiction. This was somebody's whole life.